Time for a brief interlude between seasons 1 and 2 to get some backstory on Kanan. So take a journey with me as I watch through Star Wars Rebels for the first time. Well, hello there. This seemed like the appropriate time. If there actually is an appropriate time? Well, anyway, seemed like the right time to go look at the Kanan Comics. Now, there's enough in those Kanan Comics, and they were actually divided into two pieces in the first place, so I decided to go ahead and do that as well. There's going to be two different videos, but don't worry, we won't have to wait a super long time. They'll both be up this week. This one now, and then the second one I'm looking at Friday morning. And hey, don't forget, coming up Sunday at noon Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to go ahead and live stream the first 4 episodes of Season 2. Oh, and hey, before I jump on in, by the way, what did you think about the background music in this video and the previous Rebels video? Didn't see any comments, so I imagine nobody had a problem with it, but I was just curious if anybody had any thoughts, as it's something new I'm doing in there, and hopefully you like it. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and take a dive into the character of Kanan. So there are 2 different connected comic stories, each with 6 parts. The first one is just called Kanan, the Last Padawan. And specifically, I watched this over up on Star Wars Audio Comics, the YouTube channel up there, and they do a great voice casting and a really nice production, as well as moving in the different panels in there to give some motion to it. Very nice job. So if you haven't checked them out for anything, go ahead and check that out. It's the same spot I went ahead and watched that Darth Maul arc back over in the missing episodes from Clone Wars. Well, anyway, without further ado, Kanan, the Last Padawan, Part 1. Well, we get a little opening crawl, and well, we find out Kanan Jarrus has more of a hidden past than we knew, even from the rest of his companions there on the Ghost. Apparently, his name actually was Caleb Doom, back when he was a Jedi Padawan, and, well, younger too, I suppose. But first, we give a little bit of a framing device. So we're in our modern times, and we're making a supply run for the Tarkin town over on Lothal, and off we go to the planet Color. And this is going to give all kinds of flashbacks for Kanan. We head over to 15 years earlier. The fall of the Republic time period right there, Order 66 and the Clone Wars, that time period. Well, we see a General Cleave over here on Collar, and there's something about Jedi Master being unstable. So an interesting little question on Jedi Master Depa Billaba. Interesting. I imagine that's going to come into play a little more at some point. And well, what we see here is essentially the Republic has pretty much gotten to the point of winning this war. They thought it would be easier apparently because of Billaba maybe being unstable, but it didn't work out that way. So Cleave, he runs away. He leaves Gama Key, who actually is one of the Colorun's people, and he leaves him to go ahead and have to stay for his people to Republic rule. Because after all, Cleave certainly ain't. But that, well, the war is pretty much over. And we see the Colorans really don't like either side, which I imagine there's probably a good few worlds out there that really would prefer not to be on either side of this war and don't really care for either the Separatists or the Republic. Well, Collar is one of them. And some other interesting things that pop up here. We hear that Kanan feels he's found his place now that he's in war, which certainly would not be the only person who seems to really be at home in a war, especially when you grow up during that to some degree, right? We get to meet some of the clones, Commander Gray and Captain Styles. And, well, we also go ahead and get some interesting stuff out of our Jedi Master there, who frankly seems to be a good and calm master so far. She doesn't get pissed off at the Colorans, unlike Kanan, or should I say Caleb, really, who gets a little teed off. But she, is all, no, we should show them who we are through our actions. And frankly, she has a bit of a different view on the Jedi Order. When she says, I believe the Jedi Order made a crucial error in taking military titles. No kidding, if only more of you realized that one, maybe you wouldn't have done it. What can you do? I mean, if you'd had Billaba around, Qui-Gon, that's 2 more voices against doing it. Probably still not enough, but dang. Yep. And there's an interesting piece because young Caleb right there, Kanan, I'm going to start calling him Caleb throughout this since that's what he went by back then. Well, anyway, he is dumbfounded that she would actually question the Jedi High Council and their decision. Which, it's like, dang, oh, that kind of blind loyalty, what a pain. And for extra irony, apparently Caleb asked tons of questions, which he says is merely to understand the reason a choice was made, not to question the decision itself. Yeah, well, maybe you should actually question those decisions too. Find out the reasons, see if they're actually good reasons. Decisions aren't made black and white, it doesn't happen. A lot of them are shades of gray in the first place. Like Commander Gray, CC-10/994. Well, things are about to not go so great. Because guess what happens for Commander Gray over there? It's Order 66 time. Oh, we see him get it, and then we end this part with a panel of Kanan with the holocron he just got from his Jedi Master saying, yeah, life is pretty sweet. Whoa, that is a twisted dark ending right there for you. Oh man, yo. So I will say, after the first part, it was a fine enough opening, although the future framing device off there just really felt unnecessary. And yeah, I think it could have been done differently or better, but hey, what can you do? The rest of it's all pretty good so far. On to part 2. Oh, and quick comment here. Forgive me for making a quick comment specifically on the Star Wars Audio Comics video as opposed to the story itself, but their choice to use an image of Earth, which was focused on Australia at an odd angle, to stand in for color was a bad choice and really pulled me out of the comic for a bit. Just a forewarning. Well, anyway, no more of that framing device. We are just back in the past, over on color, deep in the Outer Rim. Run. And Caleb feels the other Jedi being killed, and he doesn't run, actually, at this moment. He freezes. And he's busy thinking, these are my friends, and Master Bilaba is killing them to stop them from killing us. God, just try to wrap that through your head, especially when you've known these people for how long, and you feel they're your good comrades. That is a hard one to go ahead and get your head around. I can understand freezing in that. Yikes. But hey, he gets it together eventually and fights alongside his Jedi Master and ends up killing some of his former friends in those clones. But they are just in a bad spot. They are badly outnumbered. And Jedi Master Bilaba, she knows they're going to lose this fight. And this time tells him to run for real. And I love this little detail that she lies and says she'll be right behind him. And he also then is thinking about this and then says that he knows it's a lie. And it's the first time she's ever lied to him. But he does run. I just love that extra little detail. Unnecessary to put in there, but it adds so much to have it there. Love that. And, well, she ends up dying and he gets away. But he's being hunted, and an interesting piece too here is that we get to hear some random citizens talk about how they heard that the Jedi had betrayed the Republic, but at least they died for it. I mean, and that's all you hear, right? Yikes. Oy. And this means Caleb? He is now alone for the first time in his life over on Plateau City on the planet Collar. And hey, here's where he has a lucky run-in. Maybe the Force had its way. So he runs into Janus Casimir, who offers him food and ends up letting him sleep in his ship, and teaches him maybe a little of what he needs to do to potentially survive over in this world. As Janus Casimir says, what you have to do to live in the galaxy with the rest of us miscreants. You lie, you cheat, you steal, you survive. Well, Caleb goes ahead and gets the return home call from the Jedi Temple. The all clear, come on back. Obviously thinking, hey, it's gonna be, let's try to rally against this. Well, we all know what the truth is there. Yeah. Well, and those clones, they are on to him. Luckily, he steals the Janus's ship and heads on back home toward Coruscant. And at least for his sake, while he's still in hyperspace heading there, he gets Obi-Wan's override message before he gets there. At least there's that. So he doesn't fully go into the trap, but he still is got in hyperspace and was almost at Coruscant, so he comes out at Coruscant and the clones are waiting for him and his stolen ship. Oh, yeah. Another cliffhanger. We like our cliffhanger endings here to these. You won't keep reading if we don't. Well, anyway, this one, I like this better than the first part. I thought it flowed better, and oh man, there was some heavy issues in here too at certain points. On to number 3. So there he is. No friends, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Luckily, he's able to go ahead and use his ship to fight them and get back into hyperspace. And where does he go? Well, he can't go back to any of the places he knows, so hey, let's go somewhere where people probably won't look for him. Back to Collar. And so he returns the ship over to Janus Casimir. And, well, then he's kind of sent away by Janus, who kind of deconstructs him accurately. But he ends up following Casimir around because what else does he got? Secretly. And eventually he mistakes a little interaction Casimir was having and mistakenly attempts to rescue him. Which had actually just been a negotiation where Casimir was driving up his prices. Yeah. Whoops. Well, hey, because that essentially made it so Casimir was out of a crew, he takes in Caleb. And Caleb really needs this, so now Caleb's appearance really has changed, and he hides his Jedi stuff, etc. Finally, really kind of need to do that. And so off they go on a scheme to go steal some droids, which unsurprisingly goes south, and Kamek Key, who we met before, ends up catching them. And so the cliffhanger this time is that Casimir is seemingly bargaining away Caleb the Jedi to get away himself. And hey, get a bunch of money while he's at it. And this third one, this is it for that one. And it had some good notes in there. I loved some of the stuff between Casimir and Caleb. It was really nice. I like their relationship so far. Well, anyway, number 4. Well, after the clones are on their way to go ahead and rendezvous and find him, Casimir ends up breaking him out. See, he really was on his side. Although, I guess he was tempted, which I can't imagine he wouldn't be tempted. And so, off they go, being criminals, doing their thefts here, robbing these people, making these good deals, etc. And Caleb is finding it kind of fun. Although, he's also ashamed, because he has all that Jedi training and background and knows how this would be looked at. Heck, the Jedi at one point hunted down people like him. And unluckily for him, this whole time he is being hunted down by the clones. His old friends are just constantly on his tail. But he and Casimir have become good friends over the course of all this. Some interesting little stuff. Well, that's certainly not the end of this one. So off to the planet Lawn. And here he meets with somebody who's named John Doe, who they're going to go ahead and make a trade with and whatnot. Well, yeah, he ends up actually being General Cleve. Not the only person to go change their names after the war. And Caleb, oh man, he freaks out for a moment. Luckily, Cleve is a little more even-handed on this. I wonder, how do you like your republic now? Yeah. There's a good bit of talk between them. There's talk about how generals don't necessarily comprehend the corrupt leadership they're serving. Both him and the Separatists and the Jedi as generals for the Republic. Yeah, certainly neither of you did, now did ya? And as Cleve says, we are no longer enemies. Perhaps we never were. Yeah. Some good stuff there. And it's not the end of the good stuff between them. We get first the clones that end up catching up with Casimir over there. And Caleb disappears hoping that he's going to go ahead and be able to protect Casimir by doing it, but knows it's not enough, so finds another plan. So he tries to convince Cleve to actually give him the ship ahead of time before the payment, so that way they can work together against their common enemies of the Empire. And it ends up working. Cleve does join him. And as Cleve says, some interesting things here, and I love some of them. He goes, "It's odd. I never relished combat, but war brought out the best in me. And my life as John Doe, it diminishes me." Which the parallels here, even ones Caleb is unwilling to admit. And yes, it's great for diving into the character of Caleb, and it's good for that right off the bat, but it's also good in the general sense, and also what it's commenting about. Because certainly there is some truth right there, now isn't there? And we also get this little piece of Caleb thinking and going, Ex-Padawans don't have the luxury of self-examination, reflection, or recrimination. They just can't go ahead and let themselves be judged by the standards they used to hold because they can't live in that world anymore. The perfect world of the Jedi. Yeah. Oh, what a messy life you have now. Yeah. Scum, right? Yeah. Tricky life, and to somehow make all that work without just completely walling off the one life and pretending it's someone else entirely. Tricky. It is a tricky beast. Tricky beast. Okay, and cliffhanger, because we always gotta have one. The cliffhanger this time is that the clones catch up to him and ready to execute him. Bum, bum, bum. And this part, by the way, this was the deepest one yet. There was some really good stuff in here, as I was talking about. Bringing Cleve in worked really well. And yeah, no, this was the best yet of the different parts, unquestionably. So then we have number 5. Well, luckily, the clones choose not to immediately execute him, or really just the one who's there with him. And back over with Casimir, who's still being held by Commander Gray, well, we get this interesting bit of conversation there. And it doesn't go anywhere, but essentially Casimir tries to go ahead and confront him about what's going on. And heck, Commander Gray makes this slip about, you're a traitor to the Empire. And as far as not knowing what side he's fighting on, I don't have to know. I just follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, that is the biggest mess, when it comes to chain of command and that kind of thing, and not questioning your orders. Now, they don't talk about it, but there's an interesting parallel here to Caleb not questioning the Jedi High Council. You don't question it, you just follow what you're told to do. Maybe you should question it sometimes, right? But now you question the orders, people get killed. Yada yada. Yes, I get it, but anyway. Well, they get taken up onto the ship, and then there's a bit of an argument that pops up. Captain Styles is the one that had captured Caleb, and Caleb gets into it a little with them, mainly talking with Captain Styles, but also Commander Gray too. Just about who the traitors really are, talking about Palpatine, and he tries to reason with them, tries to get through, which doesn't end up working, or at least not yet. And he gives a big force shove, and then essentially trusts the force and ejects himself out into space to get away from him. Dying. Nice. And luckily, Casimir and Cleve are over in their own ship and pick him up out of space. But that's not the end of it, because, well, guess what? You are now in space in another ship, while Commander Gray and Captain Styles are wanting to shoot you out of the sky. Or out of space, I guess? I mean, you can't shoot them out of the sky if you're in space, I suppose. Well, you get my point. And he did actually end up getting through to Commander Gray a bit. Now, Captain Styles hadn't killed him because he thought Gray would want to be there for the kill. But that wasn't where Commander Gray was in the first place, so he was a little more open and susceptible to questioning things. And Commander Gray really starts questioning everything. Not that Styles is going to budge. So what does he end up doing? He decides to make things right, or at least start to. And by doing that, that means for him blasting the controls at the front of the ship and taking out the shields. Which then means when our other people shoot them, it destroys the Imperial ship, killing them. A tragic end, to be sure. It's like, dang. But at the same time, a good end and well written right there. And, well, then we go further in time. Caleb ends up leaving Casimir. And Casimir and Cleve are kind of together now, and they work well as a team. And Casimir gets what's going on. Casimir just tells him, yeah, you think you're protecting me, but you're really just protecting yourself from suffering another loss. And he's right. He's of course right about what's going on. Doesn't stop Caleb from punching him and then leaving. And Caleb takes his holocron, pieces of his lightsaber, and leaves on their second ship, the Escape, that they ended up getting recently over with Cleve. And it's a sad departure right there. It's sad to see them split up. But hey, there's still an opening there. After all, Casimir wishes him well even as he goes. We see Caleb head off to the planet Moraiga, where he meets Morphizo. And we see him go ahead and associate his new name. First time he ever says it. Kanan Jarrus. Which, by the way, if you note that, seems a lot like Janus Casimir, doesn't it? Janus Casimir Kanan Jarrus. Yeah, just saying. And yes, obviously I know that's intentional, which I love it. I mean, it just adds so much to the backstory here for Kanan to go give that extra piece. Heck, even to his very name that he uses, it's like, oh, beautiful, beautiful touching tribute at the same time. And with that, we're back off to the present again. And we get Hera asking if he's ever been to Kalar. No, Kanan Jarrus has never been to Kalar, ever. From a certain point of view, I didn't just lie to you. You sure Obi-Wan wasn't your master? Yeah. Good ending, although at the same time, the lies and deception in the present are really painful, frankly. And now that really feels like it could be an ending. But even this first part, this whole first comic, the 6 parts of the first one, has 1 part left actually. And it is titled Epilogue. Part 6, here we go. Kanan is haunted by his memories. So they get over to Kalar in the present time, and guess what? It's a trap. Gamut Key, who's now the provincial governor of Kalar under the Empire, ends up ambushing them. Yet luckily for their sake, somebody had actually emptied the crates before they got there. So Gamut Key ends up letting them go. And our crew then splits up to search Plateau City for the thief, because who could it be? So actually Kanan ends up running into Tapusk, who was one of the other people not quite as hopeful to be a potential ally as Jadis Casimir, shall we say. We get a bit of a fight that Kanan gets to have between Tapusk and the other couple people that showed up with him, which of course Kanan wins, but sadly he ends up getting stabbed a bit too. Kind of not paying enough attention. Yeah. And we get one last little conversation where Gamut Key actually shows up. You might think, oh no, Gamut Key popped up. No, Gamut Key. Actually, remember if you way back, he wasn't exactly the biggest fan of either the Republic or the Separatists. Well, he ain't the biggest fan of the Empire either, frankly. And so he wants some inroads with the rebels and lets them have the goods and lets them decide to go away. Sure, he's good with that. Have a little something under the table right there. But then, well, to end this part, Kanan passes out from blood loss. Dun dun dun. So really, in some ways, this almost feels like it probably would fit better with the next 6 than as number 6 here. So as if we had 5 and then another 7. But I guess we got to really set up and give you a reason to want to jump into the back half, right? Because otherwise it might feel like too much of an ending and you'll be like, oh no, I'm good now. I don't need to know whatever the heck was going on in the future time period. Well, anyway, there we go. So that is the first part. Kanan, the Last Padawan. And I mean, it definitely had its good moments. The best of the parts was part 5 right there. We really got into some good depth. Part 4, second best, right behind it. Just because we got into some of those deeper philosophical questions and deeper character moments that were really revealing on Kanan/Caleb and who he was, and these other people we got to meet like Cleve and Casimir and the clones. So much tragedy throughout all of this too. Yeah. I liked it. I definitely liked it. It adds a decent bit to the backstory of Kanan, and that's really nice too. Well, anyway, I will do a part 2 of this over on Friday. It will come out. Be a really long video otherwise. That's why we're splitting this into 2. And also, I'm going to follow that up Friday later. There will be another second viewing live stream watch party of the new episode of The Mandalorian. And hey, if you've got a preference on what time I do that, please let me know. It's still flexible. So I will take into account whatever you have to say here and then probably put it out so everybody knows what time that's coming up. Otherwise, maybe I'll just do it again 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll see. I can do it earlier than that too, definitely. Or heck, if people really prefer a little later in the day, I can do that. So just let me know and I will go ahead and try to work with y'all. And hey, with that, well, what about you? When did you first go ahead and read the Kanan Comics in terms of, say, the season of Rebels you were watching? And who was your favorite character here in this comics, aside from Kanan or / Caleb, whatever you want to call him? Well, go ahead and let me know down below in the comments. And thanks so much for watching. As always, if you like the video, please help me out. Give it a like, a share, and if you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the force be with you always.